Okay, so now I'm going to go over reviewing how we can solve for inverse trig function equations using right triangles. So here we're given that y is the arc sine of x, and we got to find the cosine of y. So what we're going to do is rewrite this in terms of the sine of y. So the sine of y will be equal to the sine of the arc sine of x. But if you take the sine of the arc sine of x, that just undoes what what the original function does to it. So it just becomes the sine of y is equal to x. Now, let's draw a right triangle that allows us to show this. So if you remember back, when you first, learned trig, you learn, you learned that the sine of some angle, in this case y, is equal to the opposite leg over the hypotenuse. Remember the y is an angle, so let's just make this angle here y. So the sine of y is equal to the opposite leg, this is the opposite leg, over the hypotenuse, which is up here, which is the side opposite the right angle. And then if the sine of y is x, we can write x as x over 1. So then x is going to be the length of the opposite side, and then the hypotenuse will just be 1. Now, and this is going to seem weird at first, but let's just stick with it, because then we can write the cosine of y as the adjacent side over the hypotenuse side. The adjacent side is this side right here. And the hypotenuse is just 1. So we just have to solve for the adjacent side to figure out what the cosine of y would be. And the way we do that is kind of working backwards from the Pythagorean theorem. Remember you have adjacent side squared plus opposite side squared equals hypotenuse squared. Usually you'll see a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's keep the a squared as, let's make the a squared the adjacent side, or let's just make a the adjacent side. So we have a squared plus, let's make b the opposite side, plus x squared equals the hypotenuse squared. Let's just make that's our c, so equals 1 squared, or just 1. So then a squared equals 1 squared minus x squared equals 1 minus x squared. And then that just means a is just the square root of 1 minus x squared. And since we're looking at the cosine of y, which is adjacent over the hypotenuse, the adjacent side is this. So the cosine of y is just the square root of 1 minus x squared. Of 1 minus x squared. I didn't write it down neatly. Let me fix that. I said that's our answer. We're not going to get a number. We're just going to get a function. So let's go through one more so we can get good at this. So here we have the arc secant of root 5 over 2 is equal to y, and we want to find the tangent of y. So again, let's undo this function so that we can just get the input. So we're going to take the secant of each side. So we have the secant of y equals the secant of the arc secant of root 5 over 2. And again, since they're inverse functions, you're going to be left with root 5 over 2 on the right side. So we have the secant of y is equal to the root 5 over 2. And let's set up a triangle that shows this. Now, let's recall also the secant of y is the reciprocal of the cosine of y, which means instead of it being the adjacent over the hypotenuse, it'll be the hypotenuse over the adjacent. And our angle is y, so let's just make y this angle over here. So the hypotenuse then is √5. So then this side, the hypotenuse equals √5. And then the adjacent side, this side here, is equal to 2. And this will be our opposite side. And since we're trying to find the tangent of y, we're trying to find basically the opposite side over the adjacent side. We know the adjacent side is 2, so we just have to find the opposite side. And we just use, again, the Pythagorean theorem. Remember, the hypotenuse squared equals the opposite leg squared plus the adjacent squared. So we can have basically square root of 5 squared is equal to 2 squared plus the opposite leg squared. We'll just call it op. And then we just solve for the opposite leg. So that just means that √5 squared, or 5, minus 4, because 2 squared is 4, is equal to the opposite leg squared. So the opposite leg is just the square root of 1, or just 1. So the opposite leg is just 1. And then so the tangent of y is just 1/2. And there you go. I hope that helps. Good luck.